When the holidays start to feel a bit repetitive, reach for a Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry and put your twist on tradition. A bold cranberry and winter spice flavor fusion, Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry is a refreshing way to shake things up this sipping season. And only for a limited time. Sprite. Obey your thirst.
Hey, this is William Tincup, and you're listening, hopefully watching, the You Should Know podcast. Got our friends from Findem on today, and they got some big news that they want to talk about. So, Hari, Maverick, how are y'all doing today?
Very well, William. Thanks for having us.
Oh, absolutely. We love y'all. So this is easy. It's like talking to friends. It's like it's something gets scheduled in your calendar. Like, I look forward to that. That's not something I want to dodge or cancel. So
that's what we wake up for on a Monday.
Right. Right. How are you doing? And please give the audience a little context of who you are, background.
Thanks, William. I'm Hari Kolam, one of the founders of Findem. We are talent acquisition and management solution. I mean, built for the era where data needs to be built for AI to function. So it is we position ourselves as a foundation layer that is necessary to build AI-enabled talent workflows. We've been building Findem for the past 6.5 years. Redwood City, California-based company, about 200 employees, I should say, and transforming it through the lens of data. And I think for the past 4 years of us building in this market, I mean, we've seen through myriads of ecosystem change from COVID to a crazy market, to a lull market, to an AI-first market. And through all that, Findem's identity essentially has chiseled into something that is very, very relevant today. Excited for this conversation and share more about ourselves. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because we say 6 or 6.5, I believe you said. Those are really dog years.
Yeah.
In this industry. Like, that's 42 years. Because we've been through so much with obviously COVID and then the highs and lows of COVID. I would say ChatGPT launching publicly. A lot of people have been privately looking at AI and AI products, but publicly, all of a sudden you got mass distribution. And I think our American presidency going from one extreme to another also hasn't necessarily helped. I don't mean that in a bad way either way. I just mean that, the one extreme to another, you've got a lot of things that change. So you got to keep up with that. And that's hard. When you're captaining a ship through all of that stuff, there's nothing easy about it. So I do think it's 6.5 years by a clock, but I think it's actually more than those years.
Yeah, the learning curve has been steep, and I think it's made us a better company. It made me a better entrepreneur.
Yeah, for the practitioners listening.
Yeah,
like that, we all imagine like what they're going through and how their work has changed month to month throughout a whole process, or even quarter by quarter through that whole process. It's like, we're up, everything's great, let's hire. Well, next quarter, we're going through layoffs. Like, how do you do that as a leader of talent acquisition? I'm not sure how they do it. So Maverick, same thing. What's give us a little context.
Thank you so much, William. Maverick, I'm based out of Vancouver, and co-founder of Getro, now part of the family of Findem.
Yeah.
And fun fact, when we started Getro, it was actually called Monday. And
no way!
We were just talking about Mondays. The reason why is that we wanted to make sure that people were finding a job that they were thrilled about. And maybe even giving a little bit more context. Previous to Monday, Evan, my co-founder, and I, Evan, CEO and CTO at Getro, and we were running a technology-enabled recruiting agency that was very opinionated. So we were only working with companies that were doing something good for the world. Either they were working to solve climate change, poverty, gender inequality issues.
Right.
But then we thought, we want to scale. Let's build a technology company. So we fired ourselves from that company. That company got acquired a few years later. And we started Monday. Now, Getro. We changed the name because Monday.com got the domain and it was impossible to run it at that point.
Right. And how are you going to compete with the SEO and all that stuff, and just
Yeah.
to come up?
We got like customers saying like, hey, we could just charge by you. And it was like actually like Monday.com. And so we started Getro with the goal of making sure that people were finding the job that they love with the help of their networks.
Right.
And especially today, that it's quite scary for lots of people because AI, people are thinking like, hey, is AI going to take my job? You need a network in order to find the best opportunities. And there's lots of things. Oh yeah, go for it.
Did you think of that because most people get their jobs through their network, not necessarily through post?
That's right. A lot of the people get jobs from their network. And if you ask lots of startups, how did they find the first hires? It was all through their network, right?
Right. I can see that. I mean, I think that's the reality of what goes on. Either you go through your network or you go through your network and create a job. But I'm not, and again, there's an array, right? ZipRecruiter and Indeed, they're there for a reason. That's there, and they're going to be there for a reason. Like nothing's going to change on that. But I tell people in the job search, find companies you love, and then go and look to see if you know anybody at that company, and then go create the job you want, not the job that's listed, the job you want, and then go figure out a way to pitch it to somebody, and you pitch literally a new job. And if they like it and they find it something that they'll find money for it. If they like the idea and they like you, and they won't if they won't. So
that's a great point. And it's a way to take ownership over your future versus just being reactive.
Yeah, I don't think it's very difficult for a lot of people to fit inside of a job description. Because I don't know anybody that checks every single box at a high level. So they might check a box, or they might check a couple boxes, but do they love those things? And are they really competent and want to work in those things? Probably not. So tell us a little bit about how y'all got together. And Hari, specifically, I want you to think about kind of Findem pre-Getro, and then why you were attracted to bringing them into the fold.
Yeah, I think this is you asked me at the beginning of the call on whether what kind of an acquisition it is. I mean, I actually think it's a 1 + 1 = 11 acquisition. I think it's a pretty material change to how we think about the talent acquisition business. All right. So as you know, one of the foundation thesis of Findem was that AI is not ready for HR because HR doesn't have labeled data. I mean, because the data is unclean, it is something that you cannot rely on, and it's not labeled. You can't rely on AI to actually be autonomously useful, right? And there are tons and tons of chatter around that AI is out here to eat the recruiter's job or a HR professional's job. And I think it's an irresponsible statement because underneath that bravado statement, I mean, one of the things that I think it needs to be very well articulated here is the aspect of using AI on top of bad data is a party trick. It's going to essentially give you some instant bliss. It essentially is not going to be it's not going to be a sustainable workflow that you can really elevate the recruiter job, right? So when we started Findem, it was a data first approach. We are the largest expert labeled data set out there, right?
Right.
And when we started to really unleash the power of data, very first iteration of Findem was around building workflow applications like sourcing, CRM, ATS rediscovery, market intelligence, right? These are assistive applications that could leverage the power of the data set to deliver prominent outcomes, right? One of the interesting things with the agentic ecosystem, I mean, agents only started working 6 months ago, right? I mean, one thing that actually it unleashes is with the right data set, it is able to essentially take offloaded tasks. It actually can do work that can be done with human moderation, but generally autonomously, right? And I think the hardest thing in the world of TA and HR is figuring out the right conduit on how do you deploy an agent, because you essentially need the ROI from AI, which means you need to offload work. Second thing is you need to do it in a way where it actually naturally fits in the way people do work. Because if you try to get into a mode of I'm going to change how people work, the mission is true, but I think it's a much more bigger cliff. So for us, when we had a common customer in one of our customers where us and Getro got invited into. One of the things that we realized is for any agent to essentially be effective, it needs two things. Particularly for talent acquisition workflows, it needs to have a context about who the person is, because people are more than the resume. They're made of millions and millions of attributes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what kind of a relationship they possess within the ecosystem. For example, given an individual, their allegiance to the company could come from their personal network, could come from company's network, which is they applied sometime previously in a job, they were nurtured into a community and whatnot, right? Or could come from the ecosystem they are part of, which I think is what Getro solves for, because they actually are a network of thousand networks. I mean, this is pretty brilliant. And we know from talent acquisition that it's not just important to identify the right person, it's also important to essentially send them a message to the right source for them to get excited, right? For an agent to essentially offload any task, it needs two inputs. Now, in the ultimate vision here is how do I deploy agents to deliver outcomes? Job posting is something that recruiters are already used to post and praying. If you essentially convert that into post and performing, where you post the thing and actually autonomously deploy agents on top, that output of that is going to be a lot more effective and concise. It becomes a right home, right conduit to deploy agents with the right ingredients, which is context from Findem, network from Getro, coming together, right? So the whole vision here is how do you deploy that to deliver outcomes, which is, say, a high-ready candidate. So thereby, the effectiveness of talent acquisition goes up without much of a change management, right? So it's a very thoughtful, future-proof mode where we are entering the world of outcomes. We are not going to be in the mode where will the same old peanut buttering on top of a SaaS app and then saying this is AI would work. Conduit is very important. So this is a perfect conduit. Job post essentially
Do you think you get the magical quality, speed, and cost, right? Do you think you get for the employers, do they get there faster? Do they get there potentially a higher quality? And dare I say, is it cheaper for them?
Very much so, William. If you think about the ecosystem today is inverted, right? So you post a job, possibly most of in the market today, right? You elicit thousands of applicants because you essentially posted a job, right? Now, then that junk comes to you, which means that the amount of qualified, unqualified, and context-free, context diluted information, because most of the resumes essentially are generated by AI themselves, and most of the evaluation tools are generated by AI themselves, right? So this aspect of I need to come, I have an ecosystem where I think a bunch of information came in, and the recruiter job right now essentially to go through and sift through and make sure that I'm making the right decision, right? Versus you go at the source and you make sure that the context is complete. You essentially have deployed agents that actually converses with the talent to generate context that on which you get a ready-made platter of shrink-wrapped candidate that I think is hire ready, right? So this aspect of essentially giving out in an outcome-centric mode is a redefinition of the problem and how it needs to be in the AI-first world.
There's a parallel for me that I'm dealing with is that let's say pre-COVID, just to make it interesting, community was a place. We built communities, right? We did all this stuff, and there was, Facebook and LinkedIn and all these different ways that people created quasi communities. They weren't real communities, but they were a list of people. And somewhere in that mix, it changed for me that community, you don't build a community. You go to where they are. And if it's GitHub or if it's Stack Overflow or if it's wherever they are, you go there. That's because they've already a part of a community. And so I think a lot of what I've done over the last year or so is really rethought the kind of aspect of community. If they've already created a community and they're already kind of active and doing their bit, why would we want to recreate the wheel? Just let's go there. And so I'm kind of reformatting my thoughts around community. But Maverick, let me ask you the same question. What do you 1 + 1 = 4, 5, 8, 10, 11, whatever the bit is. Why do you think that is?
Well, based on what you said also, I think that maybe we should talk business, William, based on how you think about community. But to your question, so previously to meeting with Hari and Raghu, Findem CTO, Evan, my co-founder, and I were probably the most driven people that we knew. That changed when we met with Hari and Raghu. So that's huge, right?
Yeah.
Also, we were talking about different analogies and how to solve the recruiting problem. I would say that is actually similar to the parking problem. Remember saying by that, imagine that there is people with their car going into a city trying to find for a parking lot.
Right.
You don't find it. And then what do? You keep driving around. And the more that you do, then the more people that there are, the more difficult that it becomes.
Great recruiting analogy. I love it.
Find a parking spot. Why? Because you don't have the data. It would be so simple if you just had the data about where is the parking spot. You would just find it immediately. You would have less people looking for parking. In recruiting, the same thing is happening. Is that you don't have the data on either side to find the opportunity, right? That's what Findem is solving.
I know you've traveled a lot and all that stuff, but in DFW Airport, there's a couple of our terminals. We have 5. And when you go into the parking lot, it has these little lights above it, red and green, right? And so you can look down a row and then say, "Oh, got the green one." And then you know where to go. Again, the data, right? It's keeping track of who's going, all that stuff. And so it's wayfinding is really the technical term for it. Is it's telling people where to go and giving them those instructions so they don't get frustrated. So that's dealing with a different bit. This is dealing with matchmaking, putting both of these people in the right place at the right time so they can, carry on. And that's, I think, the people that, the recruiters, they're solving for fit, making the hiring manager, getting that person a slate of candidates that really fits them highly. Like they're going to be forced to make a difficult decision because they got 5 candidates they want to hire all 5. All right, but they can't. That's the best case for a recruiter. And then candidates, on the other side of this, they want a great job where they're fulfilled and they get great experience. They work with a great team, all of that stuff. Like it's fit on both sides and it's fit at a high level. The more fit you can get, the better at the highest level. So let's talk a little bit about post, acquisition and what are we doing to get the word out and what are we doing with our customers? So Hari, I'll go back to you real quick. What does the world look like for the next year? Oh, it's 26. What do you want to do with kind of getting the word out about how you've changed? Because now you've got to find them. I know in my head, I could probably recall y'all's value statement, like what Findem's maybe 2 years ago, but okay, close. But now you've got a kind of a modified new statement, right? So what does it look like for you?
I think the core central mission remains intact, William. I think the mechanism of delivering the value and the ease at which value is delivered becomes substantially easier, right? So our mission, if you were to look at it for the next 12 months, is to go after every single static, boring job post and convert them into an intelligent job post. An intelligent job post delivers outcomes. Static job post delivers traffic, right? Now, outcomes here essentially are measurable. They essentially are things that matter to the hiring teams, where say 1 in 3 or 4 of those delivered outcomes lead to a hire, right? So this has to be the world where we are. We want to be at the tip of the spear as a company that is known to deliver outcome and deliver ROI in the AI first world, not to essentially sell a bunch of toolkit where the perceived ROI essentially is a lot more easier on Excel sheet than in reality, right? I mean, this is an outcome-based company. That's the transformation we're going on. It makes super simple for our users, and we have the right data set and the right network to make that happen.
You know what's funny is, and this isn't a very American thing, and I know you are a global company, but it's very American of us to think that volume is important. All right, I've been in TA for long enough to people are like 10,000 people applied to our job, and it's like, yeah, you don't want 10,000 people to apply to your job. You want 50 qualified people to apply to your job. Like these are people that fit. These
Right.
you're going to probably ding a couple of them for some reasons or another, but you're going to be able to get 5 great candidates out of that 50. You don't need 10,000. So I think one of the things that we're going to need to work on is getting people to fall in love with a lesser, more qualified number, which is, I think that's a big hill because everyone's in love with that volume. And historically, that's what they've tracked on. It's like we had, 10,000, 20,000, whatever the bid is. It's like, yeah, they don't realize that that's actually not great. You really want quality applicants. So how do we change their mind, Hari? And then Maveric, I want to get your take on that too.
I think one of the brilliant parts about the agentic ecosystem here, William, is it actually is a step function change to anything that's happened in our lifetime before, right? Where you are expected to leverage more out of AI. When you leverage more out of AI, one of the good mechanism and the solution to train on, to elevate on is the scaling with people ecosystem. Essentially, is something that that is of the past. Scaling with AI means responsibly scaling with AI, where you let AI do the AI things, which is automate the automatable parts of the job, and enable the human time to spend on the EQ part of the job, which is compelling, right? Now, this aspect of what humans will be doing and what AI would be doing is not specific to TA alone. It's around everything around us, right? So I think talking about in the context of what can AI do for you, what should AI do for you in the most responsible way is something that is extremely important to essentially ascertain. And again, the macro pressure of companies trying to essentially adopt AI and then get a ROI is something that's already happening, considering trillions of dollars are being spent on AI infrastructure, right? Yeah. The mechanism around how is exactly what we can influence, I believe.
Yeah, there's some change management in there, not just about process and people, but there's some change management. It's getting into their mind to understand. I read, actually, we reported on this article, is on Wired, and basically it said at your company is developing there are 2 tribes developing at your company. Those that are in. They're AI. They just jump in. They don't know what they don't know. And they're just jumping in and they're gung ho. And then there's the other tribe of they secretly want it to go away. And that's creating a culture divide between those 2 camps. And it's not based on age or gender or any of that, stuff. It's just there's people in that company that just, they don't want AI. And so I think that getting those in terms of user adoption, getting those people to then love it, fall in love with it,
totally,
is going to be a challenge for all of us, in many different ways. But it would be a good read if y'all like articles like that. But it's basically talking about culture is actually what you should be focused on,
totally,
and adoption. So, Maverick, what do you have to add?
So, on the misconception that you were referring to before, I think that it's important to also clarify that there is AI that takes people's jobs. There is AI that gives people jobs. Yeah. On the parking analogy, if you have technology that is very effective at helping you find a parking spot, then you have more people parking faster, right? Right. So pre-acquisition,
frustration going down. And so there's less trauma and drama, everything post. Like they can't find a parking spot. I'm thinking about Terminal D at DFW. If you can't find a parking spot, all that emotional trauma of not being able to find a parking space now goes into the airport with you. So it shows up at the desk, it shows up at TSA, it shows up at the in the counter or where you're boarding, and so it just goes with you. So it has a rippling effect of all of something that could be fixed. It's just little lights, totally. That's all it is.
And you are doing things that you don't want to do, which is versus what you want to spend the time doing, right?
Right.
And pre-acquisition, through talking to our customers, we learned that they were telling us, Findem got this right. The data that it has is what I need to do my job correctly. So that was huge for us, right? And also talking about another misconception that I think people have is that usually you think that you get your opportunities through the strongest people that you know, but there is
Right.
multiple research that says that your weak links are actually where the opportunities come from. And the networks that we are serving are so rich of weak links that are just ready and ripe to be used to find the right opportunities, right?
Well, that's parallel to something I was talking to Tim Sackett about the other day. Is you don't know how many people you influence. We were having a kind of a real dark conversation, and it was about how many people will be at your funeral. I said, I don't think anybody will be at my funeral, but my wife, there'll be hundreds of people at my funeral because she's so beloved by everybody. And so he said, you're not giving yourself credit. You've impacted people's lives. You just don't know it. They haven't told you that. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know about all that. But that's the weak links, like people that you know 4 times removed, maybe you haven't talked to in a while. And like those people are just as important as the people you would think are rich links. So I like, first of all, I like leveraging your network. It puts the emphasis back on networking and people getting to know each other, meet each other, talk to each other. So all that human stuff. And also, like if you've been to college or any type of thing, like you can leverage all kinds of different networks. Like I'm a scouter or Boy Scout, and so like both my sons are Eagle Scouts, and so like I can leverage that network. I don't know how, but I know there's a bunch of men and women that I've interacted with for over 8 years, so they're there. So why wouldn't I Why wouldn't I leverage that network? I mean, it's kind of the low hanging fruit. So it's not just LinkedIn, I guess is one of the things I'm trying to say is it's LinkedIn's great, but there's also all these other distributed networks that you can leverage and they can leverage too. Yeah. Hari, did I cut you off? Did you have something to say?
No, I think I was talking about, I was reacting to the word that you talked about, AI versus, I mean, most people essentially, interestingly, think about AI and agents, right, as making people unnecessary. I read somewhere
Right.
it's about making people unstoppable. I mean, that's the mindset. I mean, that's important to understand what the change is, because letting go of things that you were doing before always seems like it's elevation of jobs. And I think is a communication that ecosystem is doing, but I think we should continue to do that with the TA community.
It's going to continue to change. I read a report, I think it was Deloitte, but I might have that wrong, where the person said we're in the first inning of a 1,000-inning game. And so I think I know you all know this. It's like you need to get comfortable being uncomfortable, because we'll talk in 6 months and we'll talk about how things have changed. And it's just that speed. Like when we had the internet and the internet it moved from private more to kind of a public in 99. It was slower. So I think that scares practitioners. In fact, I know it scares practitioners. So what I advise, and y'all are going to hate this, but bear with me. What I advise, pretty much in our space, everybody, all the vendors in our space, you go to HR Tech, all the people, same people. I think that we need to get to a place where we don't talk about AI. We talk about outcomes. You could talk to them for 5 hours about the how, they're still not going to get it. And it's not that they're stupid, they're just an expert in something else. We should be talking, I think the vendors that go hard in the paint about, we'll just take AI off of everything we do.
That's exactly right.
And just talk about the outputs. Just talk about what it does for you, how it makes your life easier, better, more fulfilled, and you become confident and competent at what you do because of Findem. And we don't beat them over the head. If they ask, which they won't, but if they ask, you got the how for days.
Yeah.
Like let's set up a day-long call and I'll show you how, like we can go how. Yeah. But I think I don't think it's in our best interest.
That's very true, William. I think I wish that end state that you're talking about, outcome-centric ecosystem, is something that as the change management here is the mental part, because how do I essentially think about treating a vendor? A vendor essentially gives you a bunch of toys that I'm going to use that actually can give you outcome. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I would go. It's one of those deals. First of all, Maverick, did you have something to say?
Well, that sentence just stuck in my mind. I was thinking, Hari, maybe we should think for the website. It's like, forget about AI, think outcomes.
What? Again, the how, when we were doing on-premise software, that's the thing. Then we went to the cloud and we had to talk about, hey, your software, your data is private, secure, and all these things. Like the data is in a different place. Okay. And then we've done that for 25 years. We're good.
Yeah.
And I think even practitioners understand that because of both the other apps that they use as well as the professional apps that they use. But I think I walked around walked around in Recruiting Innovation Summit earlier in the year. Same thing. 20 vendors all talking about how, and all recruiting vendors all talking about how, and it's just beat me to death. And then HR Tech, same thing. I saw every single vendor. And it's like AI was in their booth, not literally, but figuratively, every single place. And the salespeople would start off with, let me tell you a little bit about our agentic AI. It's like, I don't want to know how the sausage is made. I just want great sausage.
Exactly right.
I'm a simple man. I just want great sausage. That's it. So I think the folks that pivot, the vendors that pivot to that quickest, win.
That's exactly right. I mean, the future here is outcome-centric. If you don't deliver outcomes, the amount of AI investment that's happening around us, millions of dollars, doesn't make any sense.
They don't care.
It's elevated. Yeah.
They shouldn't care.
Yeah.
And we're trying to make them care about something that they shouldn't care about. And the analogy, if either of you own Teslas, bear with me. For I would say 95% of Tesla owners have no idea how the car works. They just know they get in, they hit the button, display, and then they drive. Right? They get to the place, which has an outcome in itself. They get to the place that they want to get to. That's all they cared about. Is, can I get to the place that I want to get to? The flower shop. I want to go to the flower shop. It'll show me 6 different ways. That's cool. But I don't know how Google Maps works. Like, I don't know anybody that knows outside of Google people, of course, or technologists. I don't know how Google Maps work. I just know it gives me options on how to get to the place I want to go to.
Very, very true.
And here we are in our industry beating people dead to death with stuff that they shouldn't care about. So I love the acquisition. I think it differentiates Findem. I didn't think you had to differentiate that much anyhow. I think people pretty much knew what you did and kind of your take on the world. But I think this is a great addition to get you into those networks and
talk outcome game.
Yep, and talk outcome game. and the more we talk outcomes, and the more we fulfill on those outcomes,
correct,
the more they'll come back for.
Very true.
So, has the demo already changed? Have you already got? I mean, this has just happened. The acquisition has just happened, so I don't know how much is integrated into the demo so far. But if they did a vendor, if they did a demo like next week or so, do we get to see, Getro? Do we get to see it already kind of woven in a little bit?
So think about, I think about Findem before only had an assistive solution where recruiters essentially would log in and do work, right? Right now, they essentially have a offload solution where they could post a job on this intelligent job post and get outcomes. You essentially have to do of doing work. You just get outcomes. You post a job on this special job post. You get an outcome. So Getro is augmented by Findem. Findem is augmented by Getro. So ultimately, both of us are working towards delivering what matters, which is a hire-ready candidate.
Okay. Drops mic, walks off stage. Excellent. Thank you all so much for carving out time for us. We've already loved Findem, but we love them more because of Maverick. And so it's a great acquisition.